Hey, Tate from Season 5 of Face Off here. I'm going to show you a quick and easy movie magic transformation so you can face off at home. And don't forget to use your Chase Freedom card at the movies, so you too can get inspired. Who doesn't love a good scary movie? And right now, the biggest thing in horror is, you guessed it, zombies. The undead coming to life is a classic transformation, and one that lets you really play around and try out dozens of techniques. Instead of making a typical gory zombie, I want mine to be dry and leathery, as if it just crawled out of the grave. Our supplies are easily obtainable at any costume or makeup store. You'll need some store-bought prosthetics, adhesives, raw latex, application sponges, a grease paint wheel, a stipple sponge, and one of my favorites, tooth coloring. I'm going to start by applying the prosthetic adhesive down around the eye. You want to put the prosthetic adhesive down far enough outside of where you know the appliance is going to lay down. That way the edges of your appliance have something to stick to. They'll feather away and blend into the skin. So when your prosthetic adhesive dries, it goes from a milky color into a translucent sort of sheen. That's when you know it's dry and it's ready to apply. Okay, to further blend your appliance into the skin, you want to come back with a little bit of the prosthetic adhesive and brush it over your edges. Those thin edges, or they're called feathered edges, they'll start to blend immediately into the skin once the adhesive hits it. All right, so we've finished the eye application. Now I'm just adding a little bit of powder so that the adhesive isn't tacky anymore. And then we're gonna roll right into the next step, which is leathering the skin. All you need for that is raw liquid latex and an application sponge. So right now I'm adding raw latex over the edges to further blend the appliance into the face. What this will also do is as the latex cures, it'll start to constrict the skin and cause it to wrinkle, which obviously aids our dry looking weathered zombie face. So now that I've fully blended in the edges, I'm going to take the latex and I'm going to spread it out all over the face so that the wrinkling texture won't be isolated just around the appliance, it'll spread to the full character. As it's drying and starting to kick over, I'm gonna take the back of my paintbrush and I'm just gonna pull some little textures. That will create a nice looking withered, dead look to the skin, as well as cause some natural wrinkles in the skin. Okay, so now I'm gonna powder the latex so it's not adhesive anymore, and then we're gonna move on to color. What you need is your grease paint wheel. I've chosen this one because it has a lot of light, dead tone sort of colors. You're also going to need charcoal powder and a couple of brushes, a good detail brush and something a little bit broader for larger strokes. So I'm gonna add the charcoal powder in and around the eyes because once you come in and paint your lighter colors on top, you don't wanna go in and add the dark then because the dark may fall on top of the lighter color. So you wanna add your darkest tones in the eye socket first, then come back with lighter color second. Now that I've darkened the eyes, I'm going to use the same charcoal powder to chase the anatomy of his face. Depthening the cheekbones, depthening the temples, chase the nose and nostrils, just make his features a little more striking. I love when the shadows really start to pop. So what we're going to do now is the opposite of that. We're going to start working with the lights. We're going to use the whites, the blues, and the grays to build a nice dead tone for the skin. We're going to do what's called a dry brush technique. You take the sponge, you get a little bit of paint on the end of your sponge, and you go in and you stipple over it. That way the depths stay dark and the tops go light. Now that I have my base color down, I'm gonna do what's called a powder set. I'm gonna use this raw powder and I'm gonna push it into the makeup. Not only does it set the makeup back and make it last longer, it actually pushes it in, giving it a more realistic look as well. Okay, now I'm gonna take my stipple sponge. I'm gonna add some dry greens and yellows around the mouth. I'm gonna use the same technique, except I'm using some darker purples. This is just to add a little more dark breakup. Now that we're done with our color, one final powder set to push all the colors back together. So we're just about finished with our zombie. He already looks badass, as you can see. But I like to do some final details that really pop the character. In this case, it's tooth coloring. We've got black, we've got nicotine. You use this to suggest cavities, any sort of rot, broken teeth, and you want them to keep their mouth open until it dries. And a really cool thing about tooth coloring is you can actually use it as lip coloring. It sticks to the moisture of lips really well, whereas makeup does not. So you can add a little around the corner of the mouth. It just makes it look even more infected and gross. All right, guys, there you go. From live to dead to undead in about half an hour. But be careful, because as we all know, the zombie's always looking for his next meal. Be sure to check out my other Face Off at Home tutorials. And go get your own inspiration at the movies. Remember, with your Chase Freedom Card, you get 5% cash back at movie theaters this quarter.